A couple of weeks ago, I put a poll out to all my subscribers asking them what in-depth video they wanted to see next. These were the three options and they ended up picking a how-to driver video. Now, if you want to see the other two videos, if you want me to film them, let me know in the comments down below. There is no better feeling in golf than absolutely roasting a drive down the middle of the fairway. It's long, it's straight, it stays in the air forever, and ultimately, not only does it feel great, but it's going to massively help you improve your scores. If you can get the ball in play off the tee, your scores are going to plummet. So in today's video, we're going to have a huge how-to guide. This is going to be your all-in-one video. You're not going to have to go anywhere else, and it is guaranteed to help you hit driver better so you can shoot lower scores. So let's just quickly run through exactly what we're going to cover in today's video. We're going to start off by looking at concepts. What are the key concepts that we need to have to make sure that we can be successful with this driver? After that, we're going to jump into the setup, running through the fundamentals and giving you some super simple and clear checkpoints and baselines for you to have. From there, we're going to progress into the backswing, and we're going to sort of split it up into two areas. Number one, how are the hands and arms working? And then number two, how is the body pivot working? After that, we're going to go transition and downswing, again, really focusing on that body movement, and then we're going to get all the way into impact, the release, and all the way into the follow through. So we're really going to give you that A to Z. Now, as well as that, we're also going to go through the final piece, which is my favorite piece, which is how do you hit a go-to driver shot? You know, when the fairway gets narrow, when you get tight under pressure, how do you just get the ball in play? We're going to go through that as well. So grab a coffee, grab a stronger drink if you like, grab a water, let's sit down and let's go through everything. Key concept number one that we are going to run through first is angle of attack. Now, firstly, what is angle of attack? Angle of attack is the name we give for how is that club head traveling as it hits the ball. Now, is it going to be traveling on the way down? Is it going to be traveling level or on the way up? But with a driver, we're going to be a lot more sweepy. Now, the main reason for this is the ball is teed up. You know, whenever we're hitting driver, unless you got the DOD, the driver off the deck shot in the bag, you're going to be hitting driver off the tee. That means we can get into a position to where we can really sweep it. We can then optimize out our launch angles, our ball flight, our distance, everything. So what are we looking for in terms of angle of attack? What is our sort of baseline numbers? Well, we will see golfers be very, very successful from anywhere from -1 to +3. So straight off the bat, a lot of people say, oh, you have to hit up, you have to hit up. Well, to be honest, once you get past a certain point, the matchups then become very difficult. So for example, if you're hitting 5, 6, 7 degrees up, suddenly now you're going to have some crazy swing directions. It's going to be very difficult to control. So by having a range of -1 to +3, that's going to give us that sort of nice Goldilocks range to where we're still going to get great distance, fantastic distance in fact. We're still going to be able to make solid contact, and we're going to have a very predictable flight because we're not going to have too extreme numbers. Key concept number two that we're going to go through is swing plane. Now, this is a question I get asked all the time is, I feel like my driver swing is very, very different to my iron swing. And one of the biggest reasons for this is because the swing plane is a lot flatter. Now, firstly, what is swing plane? Well, if I was to set up to this ball right here, and I was to draw a line from the hosel of the club right through the base of the elbow, that is our swing plane. Now, if I grab an iron, so I have a 9-iron right here, and I set this up in the same position, you can see how this swing plane with an iron is going to be a lot steeper. The line is going to be a lot steeper. This is why when we hit irons, we find that we actually swing a lot more up and down. Reason being is the shaft shorter, so we're a little bit more bent over, and as a result, the club's going to want to work up more. Now, when it comes to a driver, obviously the shaft is longer, quite a bit longer. This then means that as we swing, the club is naturally going to want to work a little bit more around us, so it will feel very, very different. With a driver, it's going to feel a lot more around and also around on the way through, versus with an iron, it will naturally feel like it's a little bit more up and down. So don't fight it. Allow the driver to naturally swing a little bit more around you relative to the iron. And the third key concept is strike location. Now, there are two key things in play when we're talking about strike location. So those two key factors are number one, what we class as trampoline effect, and number two, gear effect. So let me just explain both of those. So if we have the club face right here, if we were to hit it in the middle of the face, we would see the ball really ping off the face. And this is what we class as the trampoline effect of the driver. Now, we have a number in golf called smash factor. Smash factor is the difference between clubhead speed and ball speed. So how fast is that ball pinging off for every mile an hour of clubhead speed? So roughly the legal limit is about 1.5 miles an hour of ball speed per 1 mile an hour of clubhead speed. Now, the only way you can ever get close to that number is if you actually hit it in the middle of the face. As soon as we start to move more towards the toe, more towards the heel, we're going to see that trampoline effect decrease. So the ball's actually going to ping off at a slower speed. This means that you could have a really high clubhead speed, but if you can't hit the middle of the face, you're never going to see it actually translate into ball speed, which is the key thing that matters when we're trying to hit it far. Now, the second factor that's at play is gear effect. Now, gear effect is how the club reacts as we hit the ball. So whenever we hit the ball out the toe, we're going to see the face ping open this way. And whenever we hit the ball out the heel, it's going to ping close this way. And when it comes to gear effect, if we hit the ball out of the heel for a right-handed golfer, we're going to find that that ball wants to curve left to right in the air, and it's going to have a lot more spin on it. And if we hit it a little bit more towards the toe right there, we're going to see that the ball's going to curve a little bit more right to left, and it's going to be a little bit more knucklebally. So it's going to drop out of the sky a lot faster. So as we can see, if we don't hit the middle of the face, not only are we going to reduce the trampoline effect, which means we're going to get less ball speed per mile an hour of clubhead speed, but we're also going to start to curve it and put a lot of side spin on the ball. So if you want to be a great driver of the golf ball, or just a great golfer in general, aim for a middle contact. Now, you can buy something like a foot spray, a powdered foot spray, and spray it on the face. When you hit a ball, it'll then leave a mark wherever you've done it. So now let's dive into the swing. And to start us off, we have to look at the setup. So we're going to run through sort of an A to Z and give you a whole load of baselines and checkpoints for you to go with. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the grip. Now, the grip is crucial. It's the only connection we have with the club. We get it wrong, it's going to hurt our swing, and it's going to be very difficult to produce any speed or consistency in terms of presenting good loft, good club face positions. So I'm not going to do sort of a how-to grip because that would take far too long. What I am going to do is run through two keys that I want you to make sure that you have. Now, there are loads of different types of grips, and I'm not here to say, look, you have to have a neutral grip, because if you look at the best players in the world, none of them have the same grip. Some are stronger, some are weaker, some have a strong left hand, a weak right hand. You see everything out there. But they all do have a couple of key things in common. And the first one is where they grip it in their lead hand. You don't see tour pros grip it in the palm. So if I was to turn to this angle, you can see how that's very much in the palm. Now, the reason why they don't grip it in the palm is, number one, if you imagine like a hammer, as soon as they grip it in the palm, it's going to be very hard to use my wrist correctly. And using the wrists are crucial for being able to set the club up on plane, generate any clubhead speed, but also to control the face. Now, when we also get into this palmy position, you can see how the V created between my thumb and index finger here is pointing way up to my lead shoulder. This is actually going to promote, as we swing down, a very open club face. So again, if you're a slicer of the golf ball, if you feel like you don't have a lot of clubhead speed or a lot of power or a lot of oomph to your swing, we need to check that left hand grip. So what are we looking to achieve? Well, if I hold the club up in front of me at a 45-degree angle, making sure the toe's pointing up to the sky, I want to be seeing that the base of the fingers go on the side of the grip, not the bottom of the grip, the side of the grip. Now, from there, close the fingers up first. So you can see I'm really holding it in the fingers. Then wrap that heel pad right over on top. In this position, you can see from the front on view, the sort of snuff box on my wrist joint here is right on top to slightly down the right side of the grip. That's a great indication that I've got the club in a good position. Now, a second great checkpoint is actually I should be able to take the bottom three fingers off and just hold it with my index finger and the heel pad off my hand. If I can do that pretty stress-free, as you can see right now, just talking naturally, I can hold it there. That's a great indication that your hand's in the right position. Now, the second key to a great grip is to make sure that the hands are working together. We don't want them to be working independently, and this is one of the things I see a lot of amateurs get wrong. They either have the hands very stretched out, so there's a lot of space between the fingers, or we see the left hand around to the left side, the right hand underneath, and you can see how you can see my left thumb right there, and ultimately this is just not an optimal position to produce a consistent swing. The hands tend to fall apart as soon as we add any speed. So what we want to be seeing is obviously lead hand in great position, but we want to be seeing when you grip it, all the fingers are nice and close together, so they're not obviously overlapping each other, but they're nice and tight, whether you do an interlock, overlap, or baseball grip. we just want all the fingers together. And as well as that, from the front view here now, you can see on my palm is covering my left thumb, and ultimately from there, my hands are in a nice one sort of unit right there, and they can then work efficiently around the body. This is going to help you use your wrist correctly, generate a lot more club head speed, but also be able to square the face up a lot more consistently. Next up, let's talk about body position when it comes to the driver. And again, this is crucial because this sort of sets the foundation for how we're going to pivot and move the club correctly. So I always like to use a rectangle as a guide. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if I set up to this driver right here, I want to draw a line straight down from the edges of my shoulders. Obviously, a little line at the bottom, little line at the top. That's the rectangle right there. Now, we can use this for a multitude of different ways of checking your setup position. First way is we can use it to check your stance width. We want to be seeing, when we draw this down, that the edges of your shoulders line up roughly with the inside part of your ankle. If you're too wide, you're going to see a lot of space between the edges of the shoulders and the inside of the ankles. And if you're too narrow, obviously you're going to see the ankles inside of that. Now, the second reason why this is really awesome is because if you're that golfer where we see you get the spine tilt wrong, so either you get a little bit excessively tilted towards the target, you can see now how that skewed the box up relative to my feet. But also if you're that golfer who tries to get too much side bend, which I also do see because they hear, you want to do the reverse K, but then they way overdo it, you can now also see how that skewed that rectangle relative to the lower body as well. So we want to make sure that if we have a nice subtle amount of tilt to where the upper body is leaning slightly away, how the edges of the shoulders are touching the inside parts of the ankles, and that we have that little bit of tilt just away from the target. Now, the final thing we can use this rectangle for is the pelvis. If you see your pelvis is back closer to the trail line, that's a no-go. We want to be seeing the pelvis in the middle to slightly closer towards that lead line. That's going to give you just that subtle amount of tilt right there. Ultimately, it's going to put you in a great position. No driver setup video would be complete if we didn't talk about ball position and shaft lean. This is sort of the piece that I see a lot of golfers get wrong at address, and it's a bit of misinformation out there. So here's the thing, ball position is based off of anatomical positions, and to keep it simple, essentially the lowest point of our swing is underneath the left side of our body, so basically the left armpit to left shoulder joint. With that being said, to keep it simple, let's just position the ball at address underneath the left armpit, left shoulder joint. Really simple position, but biomechanically makes complete sense. And this is what we see a lot of the best players in the world at impact. They do line up their left armpit with the golf ball. So if I set up to this position right here and I position that roughly underneath the left armpit, you can actually see how that's not off my left heel. It's actually about a golf ball inside the left heel. So if you are that golfer who is playing the ball off your left toe, off your left heel, stop, because it's not going to help you. It's actually going to cause a lot more hindrance. You're actually going to find that you're going to swing too far to the left. It's going to affect your low point, your strike, your club path, everything. So you want to make sure that at address, once you're in this good position, the ball position is underneath the left armpit. If you're set up correctly, that'll actually be about one golf ball inside the left heel. Now, the final piece from the front on view is actually to do with shaft lean. And again, I see so many golfers get this wrong in the sense that they have the hands way too far back in this position. To be honest, your best bet when it comes to shaft lean at address is to have the hands pretty much level with the ball. In reality, we see tour pros anywhere from level to maybe a degree or two back. But if you just aim for having the hands level, that's going to put you in a great position to then where you can have a solid grip and you can then deliver it back in a great impact position. So that's the setup from the frontal view. I know there's a lot of detail in there, but now you've got some guides that you can follow. So let's now run through the setup from the down the line view. And I see people get three key areas sort of wrong in this position. Number one, posture. Number two, distance away from the ball. And the third one is alignment. So we're going to run through these things right now. The first thing I want to run through is posture, but I kind of want to do it in reverse. I want to give you the drill first, and then I want to run through the checkpoints that we'll then use to make sure that the posture is correct. So the drill that we're going to use, I want you just to stand nice and tall and have the club up in front of you in this position. Now from there, have your legs straight and your hips level, and make sure your weight is 50-50 between your toes and your heels. Now, lower your arms down till you feel that connection with the inner part of your arms and the outer part of your chest, and just let the arms just sort of naturally droop there. Keeping your legs legs straight and your hips level, just softly round forwards until the club touches the ground. Now from there, gently unlock your legs, and that will put you in a great athletic posture. So what are some great checkpoints to ensure you're in a great posture position? The first checkpoint is your balance point. So where are your armpits, your knees, and the balls of the feet? Are they in one straight line? If they are, fantastic. That's exactly what we want to be seeing. The next key checkpoint is, where is the back edge of your butt relative to your heels? Is it about a golf ball outside of your heel line? If so, again, fantastic. So those checkpoints are going to be crucial for you, and they're just going to make sure that you're in a good position. Now, the next thing I see people get wrong all the time is distance away from the ball. How far away from the ball should you stand? Again, let's keep this super simple. Let's give you the checkpoint. If I set up here and I am the right distance away from the ball, I should be able to draw a line straight down from the center of my shoulder, and it should just gently brush the inside of the butt end of the grip right there. If I'm too close, you can see how that line is now intersecting where my hands are. And if I'm too far away, you can see how the line is now way inside the butt end of the grip. So just using that little reference guide, center of the shoulder joint, touching the inside part of the butt end of the grip is going to be a fantastic guide for you. The final one is alignment, and this is where it's a little bit more personal to you and the shape that you're hitting. If you're a fader of the ball, obviously your alignment is going to be a little bit more to the left. If you're a drawer of the ball, it's going to be a little bit more to the right. Now, one key I would say for a lot of amateur golfers is actually focus on your forearm. Now, this is one of the things that a lot of people overlook, and I actually think this is one of the most important parts. Reason being is it has a lot of knock-on effects in terms of spine angle, tilts, shoulder alignment, loads of different things, rib cage alignment. So what I see a lot of amateurs do is their trail arm will actually be higher than their lead arm. So if I zoom in on the arms, you can see how the bottom of my left arm is actually visible underneath my right arm. Now, this is not what we want to be seeing. We actually want to be seeing the top of the left arm slightly visible above the right arm. If you can do that, you're going to put yourself in a better position to where your shoulders are just a little bit more squared up. And ultimately from there, you're also going to have some good spine tilt, and it's going to be way easier for you to get that upwards angle of attack that we're trying to achieve. So again, just a tiny little checkpoint there. That's going to help you just essentially set up in that awesome position. So now we're going to start on the backswing. And the first thing that we're going to look at is how the hands and arms are moving. So I want to talk about, let's talk about width. What is width? Width is the distance the hands are away from the chest throughout the whole swing. And I see so many golfers with driver get very, very narrow in the backswing. You can see as I do this, it gets the club extremely long. Ultimately from here, it's going to be very difficult to actually generate any sort of power and consistency on the way down. So if we can add width, that's going to look a lot more like this. You can see it's shortened off my arm swing. It's got the club very much in front of my chest again. And you can see the distance has increased again with the hand width away from my chest. Now from this position, this is giving me loads of space where I can get that club accelerating on the way down. I can get my body moving correctly. And ultimately from there, it's going to allow me to start to get into some awesome impact positions. But here's the thing, how can we actually train it? Well, a lot of the time I see the issues come from the trail arm. The trail arm is really the thing that sucks the club in and starts to get it very, very narrow. So what are we looking for in terms of a couple of key checkpoints with the arm and some drills to help us with this? Well, in the takeaway, I see loads of people start to roll this arm to the inside. And as a result, you can now see from the downline view how bent this arm is. This is one of the key positions where people start to get in trouble. Now, as they go back, everything from there is just going to continue to collapse, get narrower, get narrower, get narrower. Club's now very long at the top of the backswing, and ultimately from here, like I said, extremely difficult to get down to the ball. So what are we looking to achieve in this position? Well, if we can keep a little bit more width, or that right arm just staying a little bit straighter on the way back and not forcefully straight. I don't want your arm tense. I want it nice and relaxed. We're going to start to find that actually everything's going to work back on plane a lot more. Then from there, if I just continue to feel that gentle width, that arm sort of pushing away from me, it's going to get me into an awesome position at the top. So let's give you a little drill just to help you with the takeaway, making sure you're in that good position. First little drill I want to give you is just the right palm on the side. So the open palm drill like so. Now what I want you to do is make a takeaway where you feel like that palm just stays down to the ground. If you're that golfer who starts to get narrow early, that palm's going to point in front of you, so towards the camera right there, or it's even going to point really up towards the sky. And again, that's going to open up the club face, cause a whole lot of issues. Versus if you can just take that club back, feel like that palm's pointing more down to the ground, you're going to find that actually that's going to put you in the perfect position. Now again, we can continue that now all the way to the top where you go, okay, palm pointing down, our left arm parallel, palm's gonna point away, and at the top of the backswing, palm's gonna point away from you. So we're always trying to keep that palm in the backswing pointing away from us. If we can do that, we're gonna start to see you have some great width in there. Now the second drill is going to be awesome as well because it's going to allow you to over exaggerate the feeling. What you're going to do is set up to the golf ball here and you're just going to hike the club up with your left hand, so you've created this nice 90-degree angle right there. From there, take your right hand and grip it so it's 50-50 on the grip and the shaft. Now, as you can see, my right arm is obviously extended down the shaft. In this position, it's going to allow me to make a turn where I can really feel like that right hand is pushing away from me on that shaft. If I can do that, that's going to get me into a really nice wide position at the top. Now once I've done that a couple times, I'm just then going to slide my right hand down into that position and sort of take a mental snapshot of what that feels like. If I can do that, that's then going to allow me to go, okay, I know what I'm trying to achieve there. Then from there, when I hit a golf shot, I can feel that width, and that's going to put me in a great position. So let me do those two drills for you one more time. Right palm down, right palm away, at the top, right palm away. Feel that great width right there. Now let's do the split hands drill. Again, feel that great width right there. Now I'm good to go and hit a golf shot. So now let's dive into how the body should be working through the golf swing, and we call this the pivot. How is the body pivoting in the backswing, the transition, and the downswing? And we're going to start by focusing on how the body is moving in the backswing. And there are a couple of key things that we need to ensure we do. But first thing I want to do is just set up to the golf one. I want to draw a couple of lines on my body for you. First one's going to be down the right hip, down the left hip, on the left ear. So these lines are going to sort of form the basis of how we can analyze your golf swing. If you make a backswing and you see that at the top of the backswing your pelvis has gone through this trail line, you know you've gone too lateral away from the target. If you go to the top of your backswing and you see you've fallen through the lead line, you know you're too much on your left leg. And if you see your head get too excessive maybe towards the target or too excessive away from the target relative to that line on your head, again, you know you've not moved efficiently. So these are going to be some great checkpoints. Now, what are we actually looking to achieve? Well, if I get into that position again, I draw those lines down, I want to be seeing as I turn that at the top of my backswing, I am either still touching or I've created a tiny bit of space between my head and the line. My trail hip has created about a golf ball worth of space between the trail line and my trail hip, and my lead glute muscle is still connected to that line. This ensures that I have created this nice pivot to where you can see I've gotten a great hip turn right there, so a nice full hip turn. I've gotten a great shoulder turn. My left shoulder is feeling behind the golf ball, and ultimately from there I've also created this spine angle where it's leaning away from the target. Now this is crucial because this now sets me in a position to where as I sit, rotate, I can start to approach the ball a little bit more from the inside. I can get that angle of attack slightly on the way up, and ultimately from there it's going to put me into a very consistent position. Now the other key point is just a little bit on weight. Where do we want to be feeling the weight? Now I know a lot of golfers say, look, I want to be feeling like I'm really in my right side. You don't. You will do to start with. There's a little push off for sure. You're going to shift that weight there. But by the time we get back to the top, we actually find most golfers are pretty even 50-50. And we can back this up with some force plate data. You know, by the time we get to the top, we are pretty much back even 50-50 with the feet. Don't be that golfer that's trying to get all your pressure into your trail leg, because that's just creating far too much work for you to do in the downswing. Now, let's give you a great drill that's going to help you with this. So to do this drill, all you need is either 2 golf clubs, 2 alignment sticks, or 1 alignment stick and a golf club. I've got 1 alignment stick and a golf club here. So what you're going to do is set up to the golf ball in your normal setup position. Now, as you can see, as we spoke about with the ball position, this alignment stick on the ground is going to be about a golf ball inside the lead hill. That's actually the correct ball position for the majority of golfers. Now from there, take your golf club and pop it just over your shoulders just like that and just hold it in place. Now, as we turn, we want 2 checkpoints. Number 1, we want to feel like as we turn, we can keep this left glute muscle over that alignment stick. I don't want you just to freeze it in now. I want your hips to turn, but I also want you to feel like you can get this club on your shoulders pointing behind the golf ball on the ground. You can see as I do that, I'm then able to generate this spine angle to where I'm leaning away from the target. I've created a great hip turn, and I'm actually in a fantastic position to then where I can approach the ball from the inside and ultimately start to hit up on it. So the way that you're going to do this is just pop this onto your shoulders, have that nice set up position. Then from there, just feel like you keep that left glute muscle over there as you do a couple of these turns. Learn what it feels like to get into this good position. Grab the club normally. Then just have one rehearsal swing where you repeat it. Again, you're trying to feel that spine leaning slightly away from the target. And then after that, step on in and have a hit. And as you can see there, definitely got that spine angle leaning away. Hit up on the ball, was about a 2-yard draw. But this is just going to create the foundation to where you can really just rotate and rotate. Again, this is all about simplifying down the motion. If you've got a complicated driver swing, it's going to be extremely hard to control. If you can get your setup right, get that great pivot and have some good width, you're going to be a great driver of the golf ball. So you've now set yourself up beautifully with a great top of the backswing position. And here's the thing, this is going to put you light years ahead of most other golfers. Why? Because most other golfers, by the time they get to the top of their backswing, are out of position. This means that they're going to have to make compensations on the way down. And actually the downswing happens so fast, 0.3 of a second. That's just crazy, crazy fast. So if you're having to make all these compensations just to hit the ball, you're never going to be successful. So it's about getting yourselves in the right position there to now where we can talk through the concept of you just unwinding and hitting that beautiful long straight drive. So what are we looking to see? Well, as we get to around roughly left arm parallel in the backswing, this is when we start the process of the downswing. So it happens before we finish the backswing. And essentially what that process looks like is we are going to be pushing into the left foot, so the ball of the left foot. As we do that, that's going to start to shift our pelvis back towards the target, again, helping us create this nice subtle amount of tilt. Not an excessive amount, but not anywhere leaning towards the target. We just got that nice subtle amount of tilt. From there, once we pushed into that leg, then it's pretty much go time to start to rotate because the hands and arms will then start to drop into the right position. Then from there, the left hip is going to start to push up and back. The left shoulder is going to start to clear and the right shoulder is actually going to drop down closer to the ball. This is what we class as going into right bend, and right bend is crucial because it's what allows us to keep our head back. You can see if I didn't go into right bend, I would move my head forwards, ultimately hit down and hit left on it. If I move my body into right bend, you can see how that allows me to approach from the inside, but also my head stay back so I can hit slightly on the way up. So this is where understanding the correct sequencing of starting to push into the left foot, then from there, once we push into the left foot, left hip's going to go back and up as the right shoulder goes down. That creates this great rotation, keeps the head back, and ultimately from there, you're allowed to then rotate through. Now that's the concept, but here's the thing, we have to translate that to a feel because we can't be thinking of that in the downswing, it just happens too quick. So I have the best drill that's going to allow you to develop your own feels from this concept. Let's now run through that drill. So the drill that we're going to do is called chopsticks. So the reason why I like to call this chopsticks is essentially we're going to use 2 alignment sticks and we're going to try and hit them together kind of like chopsticks in a way. So what you're going to do is place 1 alignment stick through your belt loop. So you're going to have it so it's pretty much 50-50. You could pull it so it's slightly away from the target just a little bit more. Again, this is just going to help you with this drill. Now, in terms of what we're going to do with this one, we're just going to pop it on our shoulders. And again, so we got the left tip right on the left shoulder. Everything else is extending down away from the target. So both of these sticks are just a little bit more away from the target. Now, as we now swing, we want to be feeling like as we come down, we're going to shift. And then from there, as we start to rotate, you want to try and hit this orange alignment stick on the back of the white one. So the one on your shoulders is going to try and hit the one through your belt loops. Now, ideally, we do this either just before or at impact. But what this is going to do is it's going to teach you what it feels like to have this dynamic push into the ground, and then from there learn what it feels like to start to get that right shoulder dropping down. As you can see in this position, I've got some great tilt to my shoulders, my hips have really started to open, and this is just a fantastic drill to start to teach you what it feels like to sequence the body. So let me now show you what that would look like with a golf club in my hands. I'm at the top of the backswing here again in that great structure, that little bit of a shift, and then I start to unwind the body. You can see how that's really starting to get me hitting up on the ball, swinging a little bit more from the inside. Let me show you what that looks like in full flow though right here. So again, just trying to focus on that good setup, then a good body motion with some width. So everything we've done has led us to this moment. This is sort of like the grand finale. This is the bit that actually counts. This is where we find out if it's going to be a good shot or a bad shot. impact. Impact is super, super important, and it's actually technically the only position in golf that genuinely matters. Reason being is the golf ball doesn't know what your backswing looks like, it only knows how it's been hit. Don't get me wrong, the other parts of the swing are very important, but they're important because they're there to set up a great impact position. So what does this amazing impact position look like? Well, if I set up in my address position right here, and I go from address to impact, what can we see has changed? Well, firstly, the lower body has very much extended towards the target. I've got more hip rotation, and ultimately in this position, you can see I've got a lot more weight in my left side. As well as this, I've got a little bit more right bend, and this right bend pulls my upper body back so that the left armpit is still in line with the ball. If that right bend wasn't in place, I would be too far forward. So that right bend is what pulls my head back, pulls my upper body back, allows us to hit up from the inside. As well as this, we'll also see that there's a tiny bit of shaft lean right there, and it's nothing crazy. I see a lot of people try and really de-loft it with a driver. It's not what we want to be doing. Driver shaft lean is going to be anywhere from about 0 degrees to 3 degrees of shaft lean. So it's very, very minimal. To put that into perspective, the 1 minute hand on a clock is 6 degrees. So it's half of that is going to be the most that we'd want to see. So really all of these things are just putting us into a dynamic position. Now from there, if we were to carry it through, we would see the body continue to push up, everything extend underneath us into this wonderful follow through position. So now that we know what impact looks like, in reality, everything has led to giving us that position. Impact is just a reaction to what's happened throughout the swing. Let's actually give you a drill that's going to help you go, okay, from this sort of waist high position, all the way through to this follow through position. So it's one continuous motion. We don't want to be seeing this as position, 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 position. That's not how golf is. Golf's a fluid motion. So let's give you a drill that's going to take you from roughly around here all the way through into this great follow through position. So to do this drill, what you need is an alignment stick. So what we're going to do is grip this alignment stick like it's a driver right at the end of it. Then from there, set up as if you're about to hit this alignment stick as if it's your driver. Rather than actually have the tip there, what I then want you to do is I want you to bring that tip so it's outside of your trail foot. Now the purpose of this drill is to try and slide this alignment stick as close to that trail toe as you can without touching it. As we do that, the flex on the shaft or the alignment stick is going to push our body upwards. It's going to teach you what it feels like to start to get that left shoulder clearing out the way, get the pelvis tucking underneath you, and ultimately is going to give you the sensation of what it sort of feels like to go from hip high all the way through into that nice high extended follow through position. So again, what we're trying to do is not see impact as like this is the position we're trying to hit. It's a position that we're trying to move through in order to produce that amazing driver shot that we're trying to see where it's long, straight, consistent on that basis. So have it there, drag it through up into a high follow through position. You can see the follow through position it's got me in. My weight's on my left side, pelvis is tucked under. Very natural position when I do this drill. If I was to do this drill wrong, I would see that the alignment stick would go too far away from me and ultimately it wouldn't push me up. So try and drag it as close as you can to your body, and ultimately that's going to put you in the best possible position to learn this move as fast as possible. Now from there, if I grab my driver and sort of recreate that same position, obviously club head off the ground, and then feel like I can push through, I'm going to really start to feel like what it feels to hit up on the ball, get my body extending, ultimately getting me in that great position. So we have gone through a hell of a lot of stuff today, and I get it can be overwhelming, but the best thing you can do is just try and take it down and just go through it piece by piece. Start by analyzing your swing, look at the setup, and just go through it gradually. At the end of the day, the Golfswing is a chain reaction. We got to start from the start. If we fix the links that are sort of missing right at the start, then that's going to set off positive movements, and then by the end of it, all the chains are going to be in position. However, sometimes when we're out on the golf course, things just go wrong. We lose it, maybe we're not feeling great, we've got a bit of a cold, and ultimately our hand-eye coordination isn't there, ball starts going everywhere. So what do we do in that situation? Do we just pack up and leave? No, we've got to develop what we class as a go-to shot. Now a go-to shot is a shot that maybe isn't going to go as far as your normal shot, but it's going to get you in play. So it might go 90% of the normal distance, but it's going to get you in play majority of the time. And that's crucial, especially when things just aren't going well. So how do we play that go-to shot? Again, we've just got to get control over the situation. So how do we do this? How do we take control of the situation? We got to make a couple of simple changes just to give us that element of control. First one is just to tee the ball down just a little bit lower. This is going to help us produce a little bit more backspin on the golf ball. Now, straight away, people are like, backspin, I don't want that. It's going to limit my distance. Yes, it might take a little bit of distance off, but it's going to give you more control. Spin is our friend in this situation. Not side spin, but backspin. That is our friend in this situation. The next thing we're actually going to do is just get control over the club just a little bit more. I just want you to grip down just half an inch. Now, this will help you steepen your swing plane. The reason this will help you steepen your swing plane is if I grip it at the end and then I grip it at half an inch down, I'm going to get closer, shaft's going to get a margin higher. Again, that's just going to help me cover the golf ball just that little bit more, ultimately give me a little bit more control again over the situation. The final part of this is then, I want you to feel like it's a little bit more of an abbreviated 3/4 swing. If we can do that, we are going to find that we're going to get a lot more control over our body, and everything's just going to be way easier to sync up, to time up. As a little bonus tip, I always like to think in this situation, I'm trying to clip the tee, not the ball. I'm not trying to hit at the ball. I'm just trying to clip the tee. So I sometimes imagine the ball's not even on there and I'm just trying to hit a tee. Now, it's all well and good me telling you this, but why don't I show you it? So I've teed the ball down as low as I can sort of go with the tees that I have here. I'm going to grip down slightly, and then everything's just going to feel a little bit more sort of 3/4 on the way back, on the way through. I'm then just going to focus on just hitting that tee, and let's see what happens. So straight away as I look at that flight, it's come out a good half the height. That's going to give me a lot more control, but ultimately from there it's gone extremely straight. It's nearly flown straight over the 250 marker, exactly what we're trying to see right there. So it will shorten the distance slightly, but it's going to give you a lot more control over the shot, and ultimately that's the whole aim with the go-to shot.